boss installed cameras to watch the gardener, but what he saw his son say shocked him. Michael Reynolds never imagined that the security cameras he secretly installed in his garden would reveal something far more disturbing than a simple theft. His wife Jennifer's jewelry had gone missing, and all suspicions fell on Robert, the humble gardener who had worked on the property for just 3 months. It was during the first week of monitoring that Michael witnessed a scene that made his world crumble. His son, Jake Peter, only 5 years old, ran to Robert with open arms, as he did every day. But this time the words that came out of the child's mouth chilled the businessman's blood. "Uncle Robert, I really miss my real dad," said the boy, hugging the gardener's legs. Michael paused the recording and replayed the scene several times, trying to understand what he had heard. Robert knelt down and stroked the boy's blonde hair. "Jake Peter, you shouldn't say those things. Daddy Michael loves you very much," Robert replied in a soft voice. "But he's not my real dad, right? Mommy said my dad left before I was born. You look like him in the picture she hides." Michael's heart began to beat irregularly. What picture? What was this story that Jennifer had never told him? During 5 years of marriage and fatherhood, he had never questioned Jake Peter's paternity. The boy had been born 8 months after the wedding, and Michael had always believed he was his son. Robert looked around nervously before answering. "Your real dad was a very good person, Jake Peter, but now Daddy Michael takes care of you, and that's what matters." "Did you know my real dad?" asked the boy, his eyes shining with curiosity. "Yes, I did. He was my older brother." Michael felt as if the ground had opened beneath his feet. Robert was the brother of Jake Peter's biological father. How was that possible? Why had Jennifer never mentioned this connection? And more importantly, had Robert applied for the gardener job knowing who Jake Peter was? During the following days, Michael obsessively watched all the recordings. He saw Robert teaching Jake Peter how to plant seeds, water flowers, and identify different types of plants. The bond between the two was natural and deep, very different from the formal relationship Michael had with the boy. Jake Peter spent hours in the garden, talking with Robert about subjects Michael never imagined a 5-year-old could understand. They talked about missing someone, about family, about people who leave and never come back. "Uncle Robert, why do people we love leave?" Jake Peter asked one afternoon. "Sometimes they don't choose to leave, little one. Sometimes life forces them to go, but the love they felt stays forever in the hearts of those who remain." "Did my real dad love me even without knowing me?" "He loved you very much. He talked about you all the time, even before you were born. He said he would be the best father in the world." Michael turned off the monitor angrily. How could Robert speak about Jake Peter's biological father with such certainty? And why had Jennifer hidden this information all these years? That night he tried to approach the subject with his wife indirectly. "Jennifer, you never told me much about Jake Peter's father." She tensed up immediately. "Why are you asking this now, Michael? I've already told you everything there was to tell. He left when he found out about the pregnancy. I never had contact with him again." "And his family? Didn't they try to contact you after Jake Peter was born?" "There was no family. He was an orphan." Michael knew she was lying. The recordings proved that Robert was the biological father's brother, and from what he had heard, they had been in contact until the boy's birth. The next day he decided to confront Robert directly. He waited for Jennifer to leave for shopping and went to the garden. "Robert, I need to talk with you." The gardener was trimming the rose bushes, wearing his usual red shirt and the cap he never took off. There was something familiar about his features, something Michael had never noticed before. "Of course, Mr. Reynolds. Did something happen?" "I want you to tell me the truth about your relationship with Jake Peter." Robert turned pale and let the pruning shears fall to the ground. "I don't understand what you're saying." "Robert, I know who you are. I know you're the brother of Jake Peter's biological father. The question is, why didn't you tell me this when you applied for the job?" The gardener leaned against the nearest tree trunk, as if his legs had lost their strength. "How did you find out? That doesn't matter now. What matters is knowing why you're here and what your intentions are with my son. Jake Peter is my nephew, Mr. Reynolds. I had the right to know him." "Right? You infiltrated my house in bad faith. What guarantee do I have that you're not planning to take the boy away? Robert shook his head vehemently. I would never do such a thing. I just wanted to be close to him, to see him grow up happy. My brother Peter died without knowing his son. I promised him I would take care of the boy if anything happened. Jennifer told me that Jake Peter's father abandoned her when he found out about the pregnancy. That's not true, Mr. Reynolds. Peter was overjoyed about the pregnancy. He died in a motorcycle accident on his way to buy the baby's crib. It was 2 months before Jake Peter was born. Michael felt the ground disappear under his feet once again. Jennifer had lied about everything. Jake Peter's biological father hadn't abandoned her. He had passed away before his son's birth. Why would Jennifer lie about that? I don't know, Mr. Reynolds. Maybe she wanted to protect the boy from the pain of knowing his father was gone forever. Or maybe she wanted to protect you from knowing she was still grieving when you got married. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. Michael spent the following days in a whirlwind of emotions. On one hand, he felt betrayed by Jennifer, who had built their marriage on a lie. On the other, he began to understand that Robert wasn't a threat, but rather a man who loved his nephew and wanted to be part of his life. The recordings continued to reveal touching conversations between Robert and Jake Peter. The gardener told stories about Peter, his deceased brother, always carefully so as not to upset the boy. Uncle Robert, do you have pictures of my real father? I have some kept at home, but you know I can't show them without Mommy and Daddy Michael knowing, right? Why? Because they take care of you now, and I don't want them to be sad or worried. But I really want to see what he looked like. He looked like me, only taller and stronger. He had the same hair as you, very light, and the same blue eyes. And did he like plants too? He did. In fact, he was the one who taught me everything I know about gardening. He dreamed of having a house with a big garden, where he could plant everything and play with his children. Jake Peter was thoughtful for a few moments. So this garden would be like my real father's dream? Yes, little one. It would be exactly as he dreamed. Michael was starting to see Robert in a different light. The man wasn't an intruder trying to steal his son. He was someone honoring his brother's memory and building a genuine bond with his nephew. But there was still the matter of the missing jewelry. If Robert wasn't the thief, who was stealing Jennifer's belongings? The answer came unexpectedly the following week. Michael was reviewing the recordings when he saw Jake Peter entering the house through the back door, carrying something small in his hands. The boy looked around to make sure he was alone, then ran to the garden. Uncle Robert, I brought another gift for you. It was a gold ring with a small diamond, one of the pieces that Jennifer had reported missing. Jake Peter, where did you get this? It's from Mommy. She has many and never wears this one. I want you to have it because you're my real uncle. Robert took the ring carefully and knelt to the boy's height. Jake Peter, this is very valuable. Your mom will be very angry if she finds out you took it. But I want to give it to you. You're the only person who talks about my real father with me. I understand, little one, but I can't accept it. Let's return this to your mom, okay? Please, Uncle Robert, just keep it for a little while. I promise I won't take anything else. Robert sighed and put the ring in his shirt pocket. All right, but only for today. Tomorrow, I'll return it to your mother without telling her you took it. Michael finally understood what was happening. Jake Peter was stealing jewelry to give as gifts to Robert, the only person who spoke with him about his biological father and gave him the attention he so desperately sought. The businessman realized he had been an absent father. He spent all day at the office, came home tired and barely had time to talk with the boy. Robert had filled the void he himself had created. That night, Michael stayed awake reflecting on everything he had discovered. Jennifer had lied about the story of Jake Peter's biological father. Robert was the boy's uncle and had applied for the job to be close to his nephew. Jake Peter was stealing jewelry to give as gifts to the gardener, who was the only person who gave him attention and spoke about the father he never knew. The next day, he decided to have a frank conversation with Jennifer. He waited for Jake Peter to leave for school and approached his wife at breakfast. Jennifer, I need you to tell me the truth about Jake Peter's father. She almost dropped her coffee cup. Michael, why are you insisting on this subject? I've already told you everything. No, you haven't. You lied. Jake Peter's father didn't abandon you. He died before the boy was born. Jennifer turned pale. How do you know that? Robert told me. He's Peter's brother, Jake Peter's biological father. Robert Silver, our gardener. Yes, and you knew very well who he was when we hired him. Jennifer began to cry. I didn't know, Michael. I swear I didn't know. When I first saw him, I thought he looked familiar, but I couldn't remember from where. Then why did you lie about Peter's story? Because I was afraid you wouldn't want to marry me if you knew I was still grieving. Peter had died just 4 months before our first date. I still cried for him every night. And you thought building our relationship on a lie would be better? I didn't know what to do, Michael. I was pregnant, alone, with no money. When you appeared in my life like an angel, I thought if I told the truth you would run away. And Jake Peter. He has the right to know about his real father. I was going to tell him when he was older. I didn't know how to explain to a child that his father was gone forever. Michael held Jennifer's hands. Jennifer, I wouldn't have married you just because you were pregnant. I fell in love with you, with the person you are. The story of Jake Peter's father wouldn't have changed anything. Even now, knowing I lied all these years, I'm hurt by the lie, but I understand your reasons. What I don't understand is why you didn't tell me when Robert appeared. You must have recognized him at some point. I recognized him a few weeks after he started working here. The resemblance to Peter is undeniable. But I was afraid he might want to take Jake Peter away. And did you try to talk to him about it? I didn't have the courage. I thought if I pretended not to know who he was, maybe he'd leave on his own. Michael shook his head, trying to process all the information. Jennifer, Robert doesn't want to take Jake Peter away. He just wants to be close to his nephew, and our son is craving attention. Did you know he's been stealing your jewelry to give as gifts to Robert? What? Jake Peter is doing that? Yes. All the jewelry you thought was stolen is with Robert. Jake Peter takes it to give as presents because Robert is the only person who talks about his biological father with him. Jennifer began to cry harder. I've ruined everything, haven't I? Because of my lies, our son doesn't trust us and prefers to talk to a stranger. Robert isn't a stranger, Jennifer. He's Jake Peter's uncle. And maybe it's time we stop hiding the truth and start building a family based on honesty. That afternoon, Michael went to the garden looking for Robert. The gardener was watering the flower beds with Jake Peter by his side, holding a small watering can. Robert, could you come here a moment? I need to talk to you. The gardener handed the hose to Jake Peter and approached warily. Of course, Mr. Reynolds. First, I want to apologize for doubting you. I know you're not a thief, and I understand why you're here. Robert sighed with relief. Thank you for understanding, Mr. Reynolds. Second, I want to propose something. How about you officially become Jake Peter's uncle? Jennifer and I are going to tell him the truth about his biological father, and you can be part of his life openly. Robert's eyes filled with tears. You'd really do that? Jake Peter needs to know his origins, and you have the right to have a relationship with your nephew, but I want to make it clear that I will continue to be his father in every way. You'll be the uncle who tells stories about his biological father. That's more than I ever dreamed of, Mr. Reynolds. Thank you so much. And there's one more thing. The jewelry Jake Peter gave you, can you return it? Robert smiled and pulled from his pocket all the items the boy had given him over the weeks. I was keeping them to give back. It didn't feel right to accept, but I didn't want to hurt the boy. That night, Michael and Jennifer sat down with Jake Peter to have the most important conversation of their lives. Jake Peter, Dad and Mom need to talk to you about something very important, Michael began. The boy became serious, as if he knew it was related to the conversations he'd been having with Robert. Is it about my real father? Jennifer and Michael exchanged looks, surprised by the maturity of the question. Yes, son. It's about your biological father, Jennifer replied. Uncle Robert already told me some things. He was my real father's brother. You weren't upset to learn that Dad Michael isn't your biological father? Asked Jennifer. Jake Peter thought for a few moments. No, Mum. Dad Michael takes care of me and loves me. That makes him my dad. But I wanted to know about the other dad too. Michael felt his heart tighten with emotion. The wisdom of that 5-year-old child impressed him. Your biological father was named Peter, Jennifer told him. He was a very good person and was very happy when he found out you were going to be born. But he had an accident and passed away before you arrived. He didn't leave because he didn't want me. No, my love, he loved you very much and dreamed of being your father. Unfortunately, sometimes sad things happen that we can't control. Jake Peter became thoughtful. And can Uncle Robert keep telling stories about him? Yes, he can, Michael replied. Actually, we want Uncle Robert to be part of our family officially. He's your blood uncle and has the right to have a relationship with you. And can I keep learning about plants with him? Of course you can, but you can't take Mommy's things to give as gifts anymore. If you want to give something to Uncle Robert, you have to ask for permission first. Jake Peter blushed. Sorry, Mommy, I just wanted Uncle Robert to know that I like him. I know, sweetheart, but there are other ways to show affection that don't involve taking things that aren't yours. From that day on, the family dynamic changed completely. Robert continued working as a gardener, but now he also had the official role of uncle. He had lunch with the family on weekends and told stories about Peter to Jake Peter. Michael made a point of getting closer to his son. He came home from work earlier and spent time in the garden with Jake Peter and Robert. He learned about plants and discovered a passion he didn't know he had. Jennifer also became closer to Robert. He brought photos of Peter, and she could finally make peace with the past. They kept the best photos in a special album for Jake Peter. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us, who are just starting out. Now continuing. But life is rarely simple, and new complications were on the horizon. 3 months after the whole truth came out, Robert arrived at work with a worried expression that Michael soon noticed. Did something happen, Robert? Mr. Reynolds, I need to talk to you about a delicate matter. They sat in the garden gazebo away from the house so Jennifer and Jake Peter wouldn't hear. Yesterday I received a call from a woman who introduced herself as Peter's mother. Michael was confused. But didn't you say you were orphans? I thought she had left forever. Our mother, Mrs. Louise, abandoned Peter and me when we were children. We stayed in an orphanage until we were 18. We never had contact with her again. And what did she want? She said she's sick and wants to meet her grandson before she passes away. She found out about Jake Peter through some distant relatives. How did she know where to find you? From what I understood, she's been looking for me and Peter for years. When she found out Peter had passed away, she wanted to find his son. She hired a private detective and tracked me down here. Michael felt uncomfortable with the situation. And do you believe her? After so many years of abandonment, she shows up wanting to meet her grandson. I'm suspicious too, Mr. Reynolds. But what if she's telling the truth? What if she really is sick, and this is the last chance to meet Jake Peter? What do you think we should do? I'd like to meet her first, alone. See if she's being sincere. If she is, maybe we can introduce her to Jake Peter. If she isn't, at least we'll know what her true intentions are. Michael agreed that would be the most sensible decision. Robert arranged to meet Mrs. Louise at a downtown cafe. Michael insisted on going along, hidden, to observe the woman and make sure Robert was safe. On the scheduled day, Michael arrived at the cafe an hour early and sat at a strategic table where he could see everything. When Robert arrived, he discreetly waved and sat at the agreed table. Mrs. Louise arrived punctually. She was a woman about 65 years old, with graying hair and a tired appearance. She wore simple but clean clothes. She carried a small handbag and a yellowed envelope. Michael watched Robert's reaction upon seeing his mother after so many years. The gardener became tense, but showed no anger or resentment. The conversation lasted almost 2 hours, and Michael saw that both cried at times. When Robert left the cafe, Michael followed him to the car. How did it go? Difficult, Mr. Reynolds, very difficult. Is she really sick? Yes. Advanced stage cancer. The doctors gave her a few months. And why did she abandon you? She was very young when she got pregnant with Peter. She was only 16. His father left when he found out about the pregnancy, and her family kicked her out of the house. She tried to raise Peter alone but couldn't work and take care of him at the same time. And you? I got pregnant with me 2 years later from another man who also left. The situation became impossible. She took us to the orphanage, promising she'd come back when she could get stable, but she never returned. And where has she been all these years? She moved to another city, got married, had other children. She was always afraid to look for us because she thought we hated her. And did you hate her? At first, yes, but over time we understood she was just a scared girl who had no choice. Michael fell silent, processing the information. Did she bring any proof that she's really your mother? Robert showed the yellowed envelope. Birth certificates, photos of us as babies, some letters she wrote to us over the years, but never had the courage to send. And what do you think we should do? I'd like to take her to meet Jake Peter. She's his grandmother, and this might be the last chance. But what if she wants to take the boy? What if she says she has more right to him than we do? She doesn't want that, Mr. Reynolds. She just wants to meet her grandson and tell him about his father. She has pictures of Peter as a child, stories even I don't know. Michael was torn. On one hand, Jake Peter had the right to know his grandmother. On the other, there was the risk the woman had ulterior motives. Let's do this. You can bring her here this weekend, but I want Jennifer to be present, and the visit will be at our house, under our supervision. Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. I'm sure it's the right decision. That night, Michael and Jennifer talked about the situation. Jennifer was apprehensive at first, but agreed that Jake Peter had the right to know his biological grandmother. I just hope she doesn't confuse the boy, said Jennifer. Robert said she just wants to meet her grandson and tell stories about Peter. If we notice anything strange, we'll cut the visit short immediately. What if Jake Peter gets attached to her? What if he wants to go live with her? Jennifer, he's 5 years old. 5. He's not going to want to abandon the life he has here because of a grandmother he just met. I hope you're right. On Saturday morning, Robert arrived accompanied by Mrs. Louise. The woman was visibly nervous, carrying a bag with gifts for her grandson. Jake Peter was playing in the garden when he saw the visitors arrive. He ran to Robert as he always did. Uncle Robert, who's the lady? Jake Peter, this is Mrs. Louise. She's your father, Peter's mother, and mine too. That means she's your grandmother. The boy's eyes widened. My real grandma? Mrs. Louise knelt down to the boy's level, tears in her eyes. Yes, my dear, I'm your grandma Louise. Jake Peter looked at Michael and Jennifer, as if asking permission to approach. Michael nodded positively. Hi, Grandma Louise. Did you know my daddy Peter when he was little like me? Yes, I did, my love, and you look just like him when he was your age. Mrs. Louise took an old photo album from her bag. She sat on the garden bench with Jake Peter on her lap and began showing the pictures. Look here, Jake Peter. This is a picture of your daddy Peter when he was 5 years old, just like you. The boy studied the photo carefully. He does look like me. Yes, he does. And here's Uncle Robert when he was a baby. See how tiny he was. Robert approached and sat down beside his mother. The initial tension was giving way to genuine emotion. Mum, did you keep all these photos? Yes, son. I kept everything I had of you. All the memories I had left. Michael and Jennifer watched the scene from afar. It was touching to see 3 generations coming together after so long apart. Mrs. Louise spent the whole afternoon telling stories about Peter as a child, how he loved animals, how protective he was of Robert, how he dreamed of having a big, happy family. Your daddy Peter always said that when he grew up, he would have a house with a huge garden. He wanted to plant all the flowers in the world and teach his children how to care for them. Jake Peter looked around the well-kept garden. So did Daddy Michael make Daddy Peter's dream come true. Michael felt his heart tighten. The boy's innocence and wisdom never ceased to amaze him. That's true, Jake Peter, replied Mrs. Louise. Your Daddy Michael made a beautiful garden, and Uncle Robert is teaching you how to take care of it. It's as if Daddy Peter's dream came true through you. When it was time for Mrs. Louise to leave, Jake Peter was sad. Is Grandma Louise coming back? If Daddy Michael and Mommy Jennifer allow it, I would very much like to come back. Michael approached. Mrs. Louise, you will always be welcome here. Jake Peter has the right to know his grandmother. Thank you very much, Mr. Reynolds. You don't know how much this means to me. After Mrs. Louise left, the family gathered to talk about the visit. What did you think of Grandma Louise? Jennifer asked Jake Peter. She's nice. She told lots of stories about Daddy Peter, and she has the same eyes as Uncle Robert. Would you like her to come back other times? Yes, I would. But I don't want her to live here. I want her to just be a visiting grandma. Michael and Jennifer laughed. The boy's wisdom was impressive. Why don't you want her to live here? Asked Michael. Because my family is you, Mom, Uncle Robert and Grandma Louise. But everyone has their own house. Uncle Robert has his house, Grandma Louise has her house, and we have our house. From that day on, Mrs. Louise began visiting the family regularly. Always on Saturday mornings, she would spend a few hours with Jake Peter, telling stories and showing old photos. Robert also grew closer to his mother again. Forgiveness came naturally, with time and conversations. He understood that she had been very young and had no choice. Michael was feeling fulfilled with the new family dynamic. Jake Peter was happy, had information about his biological father, and a healthy relationship with his uncle and grandmother. Jennifer had made peace with the past. Robert had found a family that welcomed him, but once again life had surprises in store. One Thursday afternoon, Michael came home from work and found Jennifer crying in the kitchen. What happened? Mrs. Louise called. She's in the hospital. Her illness has gotten much worse. Is it serious? Robert went to the hospital. She's asking to see Jake Peter one last time. Michael sighed. He knew this time would come, but he had hoped for more time to prepare the boy. Where is Jake Peter? In his room doing homework. I haven't told him anything yet. I think we should take him to say goodbye. He has the right to know that his grandmother is very sick. But how do we explain to a 5-year-old that someone he's learned to love is going to leave forever? With lots of care and honesty, the same way we explained about his biological father. They went to Jake Peter's room. The boy was drawing in a notebook. Son, Dad and Mom need to talk to you about Grandma Louise. Jake Peter put down his pencil and looked at his parents attentively. Is she sick? Yes, very sick. She's in the hospital and wants to see you. Is she going to get better? Michael and Jennifer exchanged glances. How do you explain the complexity of the situation to a child? Son, sometimes people get very sick and can't get better, said Jennifer in a soft voice. Like Daddy Peter. Did he get very sick in the accident? Yes, it's similar. Grandma Louise is very sick, and this might be the last time you get to talk to her. Jake Peter was thoughtful for a few moments. Is she going to the same place Daddy Peter went? Yes, my love. And will they meet there? Michael felt his eyes fill with tears. The way the boy processed such complex information was touching. We believe so, son. So can I say goodbye to her and ask her to say hi to Daddy Peter? Of course you can. At the hospital, Jake Peter showed impressive maturity. Mrs. Louise was very weak, but her eyes lit up when she saw her grandson. Hi, Grandma Louise. Dad and Mom said you're very sick. Yes, my angel, but I'm happy to see you. Grandma, when you meet Daddy Peter, can you tell him I'm taking care of his garden plants? Mrs. Louise began to cry. I'll tell him, my love. He'll be very proud of you. And can you tell him that Dad, Michael and Mom take very good care of me, and that Uncle Robert teaches me all about gardening? I'll tell him all that. Grandma, do you have anything from Daddy Peter to give me as a keepsake? Mrs. Louise asked Robert to get a small box from the nightstand drawer. This was the engagement ring Daddy Peter bought for your mother. He never got to give it to her because the accident happened first. I want you to keep it until you grow up and give it to someone very special. Jake Peter held the small ring carefully. I'll keep it forever, Grandma. And I want you to know that you have a family that loves you very much. Dad Michael, Mom Jennifer, Uncle Robert, they all take care of you with great affection. I know, Grandma. I love all of them too. Always be a good boy and study hard to be someone important in life. I'll be a gardener like Uncle Robert and Daddy Peter. Mrs. Louise smiled. You'll be the best gardener in the world. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, Please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Mrs. Louise passed away in the early hours of the next morning, sleeping peacefully. Robert called Michael early in the morning to deliver the news. Jake Peter received the information with a serenity that impressed everyone. He said Grandma Louise had gone to meet Daddy Peter and that they were watching over him from heaven. The wake was small and intimate. Besides the family, some long-time neighbors and people Mrs. Louise had met in recent years attended. Jake Peter made sure to bring flowers from the garden to place on the coffin. These are the flowers Daddy Peter taught Uncle Robert to plant. Now Grandma Louise can take them to him. After the burial, life returned to normal. But Robert was visibly shaken. He had lost his brother and now his mother, with whom he had only recently reconciled. Michael noticed the gardener needed support and decided to talk to him. "Robert, how are you feeling?" "Lost, Mr. Reynolds. First I lost Peter, now my mother. I feel like I have no one left in the world. You have Jake Peter, and you have our family. We consider you part of our family. I know, and I'm very grateful for that, but sometimes I feel very lonely. How about if you moved into the small back room on our property? That way you'd always be close to Jake Peter and have our company when you need it." Robert was moved. "You'd do that for me? Robert, you're not just our employee. You're Jake Peter's uncle and a friend to our family. It's natural that we want you nearby. But what about the job? I don't want to mix things up. You would keep working as a gardener as usual. You'd just live here to be closer to all of us." Robert accepted the proposal. In 2 weeks, he had moved into the small apartment at the back of the property. Jake Peter was overjoyed to learn that his uncle lived in the same house as him. The move brought benefits for everyone. Robert felt less lonely. Jake Peter had his uncle always available to talk to, and Michael and Jennifer had extra security on the property. But the closer living situation also revealed some issues that needed to be resolved. Robert began to show excessive attachment to Jake Peter, wanting to be involved in every decision related to the boy. One day, Jennifer sought out Michael to discuss the situation. "Michael, I'm worried about Robert." "Why?" "He's trying to interfere with Jake Peter's upbringing. Yesterday he questioned the bedtime we set. The day before he said he didn't agree with the school we chose. Maybe he's just trying to help." "But he's not Jake Peter's father, Michael. We're the ones who make decisions about our son." Michael knew Jennifer was right. Robert was crossing some lines he shouldn't cross. That night, he went to talk to the gardener. "Robert, I need to talk to you about something delicate." "Of course, Mr. Reynolds. Jennifer and I feel that you're getting too involved in decisions about Jake Peter." Robert became defensive. "I only want the best for my nephew." "I know that, but Jake Peter is our son legally and in practice. We make the decisions about education, discipline, and routine. You can give suggestions, but the final word is ours." "But I'm his uncle. I have rights too." "Robert, you have the right to have a loving relationship with Jake Peter, but you don't have legal rights over him. If you can't respect our role as parents, maybe it's better for you to move back to your own house." Robert realized he had overstepped. "I'm sorry, Mr. Reynolds. I think I'm confusing things because I recently lost my mother. I promise to respect your role as parents. We understand you're grieving, Robert, but we need to set clear boundaries so we can continue living together harmoniously." From that day on, Robert was more careful not to cross the established boundaries. He continued to be a caring and present uncle, but respected the parents' decisions. Jake Peter, little by little, was growing up and processing all the information about his origins better. By age 6, he fully understood that he had 2 fathers, Daddy Peter, who was his biological father and had passed away before he was born, and Daddy Michael, who took care of him every day. "Daddy Michael," Jake Peter said one afternoon, "can I have 2 pictures on my nightstand?" "What pictures, son? One of you with Mommy and one of Daddy Peter?" "Of course you can. Why?" "Because then I can say goodnight to both daddies before I sleep." Michael was moved by the boy's maturity and emotional balance. "You're a very smart boy, Jake Peter. Uncle Robert said Daddy Peter was very smart when he was a kid too." "And he's right. You got the best from both daddies." Over the following months, the family enjoyed a period of great harmony. Jake Peter was happy at school. Jennifer had gone back to work part-time at a flower shop. Michael was more present at home, and Robert had found his place in the family. But in September, a new situation shook this peace. Robert came home on Monday with a worried expression. "Mr. Reynolds, I got a strange call today." "What kind of call?" "A woman said she was a social worker and wanted to talk to me about Jake Peter." Michael felt a chill. "What exactly did she say?" "That she had received an anonymous complaint saying a child was being raised by people who weren't the real parents." "And what did you say?" "That I didn't understand what she was talking about and hung up. But I'm worried, Mr. Reynolds. What if someone is trying to cause problems for our family?" Michael also became apprehensive. Who could have made such a complaint? And based on what information? "Did you tell anyone else about the family history?" "No, Mr. Reynolds, we only discussed it among ourselves." "Then how did this person know that Jake Peter isn't my biological son?" "I have no idea. But what if this social worker shows up here wanting to talk to Jake Peter?" Michael decided to consult a lawyer to learn about his rights. He scheduled an appointment for the next day. Attai Henry Martin was a lawyer specializing in family law. He listened carefully to Michael's entire story. "Attai, can someone take custody of Jake Peter away from me based on the fact that I'm not the biological father?" "Did you officially adopt the boy?" "No. He was born during my marriage to Jennifer, so I was automatically registered as the father." "That could be a problem. Legally, you have no rights over the child if they prove you're not the biological father. But I've been raising him for 6 years. "I understand, Michael, but the law is clear. You would have needed to complete a formal adoption." "And now? What can I do?" "Two options. Either you start an adoption process now, or we try to find out who made the complaint and what that person's true intentions are." "How long does an adoption process take?" "In your case, since you're already married to the child's mother and have lived with her for years, it would be relatively quick, maybe 6 months. And if this social worker shows up before that, then we'll have to explain the situation and hope she's understanding." Michael left the lawyer's office even more worried. How would he explain to Jake Peter that he might be separated from the family he considered his? At home, he told Jennifer everything, who became desperate. "Michael, we can't lose our son." "We won't lose him. I'll start the adoption process immediately." "What if it's too late?" "Jennifer, we'll solve this. Jake Peter is our son in every way. No piece of paper will change that." 2 days later, the dreaded call came. The social worker scheduled a visit for the following Friday. Michael, Jennifer, and Robert spent the entire week nervous. How would they explain the complex family situation to a stranger? What if she decided Jake Peter should be removed from the home? On Friday, Ms. Marina Oliver arrived promptly at 2 in the afternoon. She was a middle-aged woman, serious but not unfriendly. "Good afternoon, I'm the social worker, Marina Oliver. I received a complaint about a child named Jake Peter Reynolds." "Of course, Ms. How can we help you?" Michael replied. "The complaint states that the child is being raised by people who aren't the real parents and that he's being used for child labor in the garden." Jennifer was outraged. "Child labor? Jake Peter plays in the garden. He doesn't work." "Calm down, Mrs. Jennifer. I need to verify the situation personally. Where is the child?" "At school. He studies in the morning and arrives at 4 o'clock. Then I'll wait for him to arrive. I need to speak with him alone." Michael and Jennifer exchanged nervous glances. "Ms., may I explain our family situation? It's a bit complex, but everything is legal and transparent." During the next hour, Michael told Ms. Marina the whole story. The marriage to Jennifer, the discovery about paternity, Robert's arrival, the truth about Peter. "I see. And you haven't officially adopted the child?" "I'm taking care of that now. My lawyer has already started the process." "And does the gardener live here?" "Yes, in the back of the property. He is the biological uncle of Jake Peter." Ms. Marina noted everything in a notebook. "I need to see the child's living conditions and the environment where he lives." Jennifer showed the entire house. Jake Peter's room was spacious, organized, and full of educational toys. There was a bookshelf filled with books, a proper study desk, and child-friendly decor. Does the child attend school? Yes, he studies at St. Mary's School here in the neighborhood. He has excellent grades and is very well liked by the teachers. And does he have medical follow-ups? Of course. He has a pediatrician, a dentist, and all his routine checkups are up to date. When Jake Peter arrived from school, Ms. Marina asked to speak with him in the living room without the adults present. Hi, Jake Peter. My name is Marina. Can I ask you some questions? Of course, Aunt Marina. Do you like living here? I like it a lot. I have my own room, my toys, and I can play in the garden with Uncle Robert. Who are your parents? Daddy Michael and Mommy Jennifer. And Uncle Robert. He is the brother of my Daddy Peter, who left before I was born. Uncle Robert teaches me about plants. Do you work in the garden? Jake Peter laughed. No, Aunt Marina, I play in the garden. Uncle Robert lets me water some small plants, but it's just for fun. Does anyone make you do something you don't want to? No, I just have to study, tidy up my toys and brush my teeth. But that's normal, right? Yes, it is. Are you happy here? Very happy. I have the best family in the world. Ms. Marina talked with Jake Peter for about 20 minutes. The boy answered all the questions naturally and showed that he was a happy and well-cared-for child. After speaking with Robert separately and checking his living conditions, Ms. Marina met again with Michael and Jennifer. Well, I can state that the complaint is unfounded. The child is very well cared for, happy, and lives in a healthy environment. Michael and Jennifer sighed in relief. But I need to make it clear that you must regularize the legal situation as soon as possible. Until the adoption is formalized, the child is in an irregular situation. I'm already taking care of it, ma'am. Great. I'll close this case, but I'll make a follow-up visit in 3 months to check if the adoption has been completed. After Ms. Marina left, the family was curious to find out who had made the complaint. Who could have reported us? Asked Jennifer. I don't know, but someone knows our story and wanted to harm us, replied Michael. Robert, who had been quiet since the social worker arrived, finally spoke. Mr. Reynolds, I have a suspicion about who might have made the complaint. Who? Peter's family. They never knew about Jake Peter, but if they found out somehow... Did Peter have family besides you? He had some distant cousins on his father's side, difficult people, always looking for their own gain. If they found out Peter had a son, they might be after some benefit. What kind of benefit? I don't know. Maybe they want money or think they can get custody of Jake Peter and receive some kind of pension. Robert's theory made sense. Someone with financial interests could be trying to destabilize the family. How could they have found out about Jake Peter? The detective that Mrs. Louise hired to find us, he might have spread the information to others. Michael decided to hire his own detective to investigate who was behind the complaint. He couldn't remain vulnerable to further attacks. The detective, Roger Silver, was an experienced professional recommended by the lawyer. In 2 weeks, he had discovered the source of the complaint. Michael, I found out who made the complaint. It was a man named Claude Reynolds, Peter's cousin. And what is his interest? From what I found out, he's going through financial difficulties. He has gambling debts and is being pressured by loan sharks. And what does this have to do with Jake Peter? He wants to get custody of the child and sue you for emotional distress, claiming you pretended to be the father without having the right. His lawyer said they could get a high compensation. Is that possible? Legally, it's complicated, but he can try. And in the meantime, he can create a lot of problems for your family. Michael was outraged. Someone wanted to use Jake Peter as a bargaining chip to solve financial problems. What can I do to protect myself? Speed up the adoption process and gather all the evidence that you've always been a good father to the boy. Witnesses, medical records, school records, everything that proves Jake Peter is doing well under your care. And if he tries to go to court before the adoption is finalized, then we'll have to fight in court. But you have a good chance considering you've been raising the child for 6 years and have a stable family. Michael left the meeting determined to protect his family. He wouldn't allow an opportunist to destroy Jake Peter's happiness. At home, he gathered Jennifer and Robert to share the discoveries. "Is this Claude really Peter's cousin?" asked Robert. "According to the detective, yes. Son of an uncle Peter didn't have much contact with. I remember him. He was a problem indeed, always getting into trouble and borrowing money. Well, now he's found a new way to get money, using our son. What are we going to do?" asked Jennifer. "First, speed up the adoption. Second, gather all the evidence that we are a happy and stable family. Third, be prepared for any move he makes." "And Jake Peter, are we going to tell him?" "Not for now. He doesn't need to know that someone is trying to separate him from us." During the following weeks, the family mobilized to gather all the necessary documentation for the adoption process. Teachers, doctors, neighbors all provided letters of recommendation, attesting that Jake Peter was a happy and well-cared-for child. Robert was also key in the process, providing information about Peter's biological family and confirming that Michael was the one who could best care for the boy. In November, Claude finally appeared. He looked for Michael at the office, accompanied by a lawyer. "Mr. Michael Reynolds? I'm Claude Reynolds, cousin of Peter Reynolds, biological father of the child you are raising. Yes, how can I help you?" "I'm here to inform you that I'm filing a lawsuit to gain custody of my cousin Jake Peter." "Based on what?" "You have no legal right over the child. I am his blood relative and can provide a more suitable environment." Michael looked at the thin, poorly dressed man who looked like he hadn't slept in days. "More suitable how?" "Well, the child should be with his real family, not with strangers. Mr. Claude, I've been raising Jake Peter for 6 years. He considers me his father. You didn't even know he existed until a few months ago." "That doesn't matter. Blood is blood." Claude's lawyer spoke up. "Mr. Michael, my client has rights regarding the child. We are willing to resolve this amicably. A suitable financial compensation could settle the matter." Michael understood immediately. It was pure and simple blackmail. "Gentlemen, I have nothing to negotiate. Jake Peter is my son and will remain with me. If you want to go to court, feel free." "You will regret this decision," threatened Claude. "The only thing I regret is allowing you into my office." After the two left, Michael immediately called his lawyer. At I. Henry, they showed up. They want money in exchange for leaving Jake Peter alone. That's what we expected. But that actually works in our favor. It shows their interest isn't the child's well-being, but financial. And now? Now we wait for them to file the lawsuit and prepare to dismantle their arguments in court. How much time do we have? The adoption process should be ready in 2 months. If we can delay their lawsuit until then, it will be much easier to defend our position. At home, Michael told everything to Jennifer and Robert. Everyone was nervous but determined to fight for Jake Peter. "If needed, I'll testify in your favor," said Robert. "I can confirm that Jake Peter is very happy here and that Claude never showed any interest in him." "Thank you, Robert. Your opinion as the biological uncle will be very important. And I can ask other relatives of Peter to testify too. Most of the family knows that Claude is problematic. 2 weeks later, the official summons arrived. Claude had filed a custody lawsuit, claiming that Jake Peter was being raised improperly by people with no family ties. Michael's lawyer filed a series of motions to delay the process, arguing that Claude lacked the financial or emotional stability to raise a child. During this period, Jake Peter began to notice that something was wrong. His parents were more tense. There were many whispered conversations and strange phone calls. "Daddy Michael, is something bad happening?" the boy asked one afternoon. Michael knelt down to his son's level. "Why are you asking that, Jake Peter?" "You and Mommy are different, and yesterday I saw you crying." Michael decided it was time to tell the truth, adapted to the boy's age. "Son, do you remember when we talked about your origin? About Daddy Peter and Daddy Michael?" "I remember. There is a man who was Daddy Peter's cousin. He wants you to go live with him." Jake Peter was frightened. "But I don't want to live with him. I want to stay here with you." "And you will stay, my love. Daddy and Mommy are doing everything to make sure you remain here." "What if that man takes me by force?" "That won't happen. There are laws that protect children, and everyone who knows you can see that you're happy here." "Can Uncle Robert leave too?" "No, son. Uncle Robert will always be here, no matter what happens." Robert, who was listening to the conversation from the garden, approached. "Jake Peter, You know I'll always protect you, right? I know, Uncle Robert. Then you don't need to be afraid. Your real family is right here. Daddy Michael, Mommy Jennifer, and me. No one is going to change that. The trial was scheduled for January. During the weeks leading up to the hearing, the family experienced moments of great tension, but also of unity. Jake Peter showed impressive maturity for his 6 years. He understood that some adults were trying to separate him from his family, but he remained confident that everything would work out. Daddy Michael, he said on the eve of the trial, if I tell the judge that I want to stay here, will he let me? Yes, son. Children's opinions are very important to judges. Then I'll say everything I feel in my heart. On the day of the trial, the courthouse was full. Besides Michael, Jennifer, and Robert, several witnesses attended. Jake Peter's teachers, the pediatrician, neighbors, and even some distant relatives of Peter who came to support the family. On the other side, Claude was accompanied only by his lawyer and an aunt who barely knew Peter. Judge Frederick Allen began by hearing the arguments from the lawyers. Claude's lawyer claimed that the child had the right to be raised by his biological family, and that Michael had usurped that right. Michael's lawyer countered that Jake Peter had been raised with love for 6 years, and that separating him from his family would be traumatic for the child. Several witnesses spoke in favor of Michael and Jennifer. Everyone confirmed that Jake Peter was a happy, well-cared-for child who considered Michael his real father. Robert gave an emotional testimony, confirming that his brother Peter would be happy to know that his son was being raised by such dedicated people. When it was Jake Peter's turn to speak, the judge asked all the adults to leave the room, leaving only him and the child. Jake Peter, do you understand why you're here today? Yes, I do, Your Honor. There's a man who wants me to live with him, but I don't want to. Why not? Because my family is Daddy Michael, Mommy Jennifer, and Uncle Robert. They've taken care of me since I was born. And if the judge decides that you should live with your cousin Claude, I'll be very sad. I don't know him, and I don't want to leave my family. Jake Peter, do you know that Daddy Michael isn't your biological father? I know. My biological father was Daddy Peter, Uncle Robert's brother, but he left before I was born. Daddy Michael is the one who takes care of me and loves me. And that doesn't bother you? No. I have 2 daddies, one who's in heaven taking care of me from there, and another who's here taking care of me every day. The judge was impressed by the boy's maturity and clarity. After hearing all the testimonies, Judge Frederick Allen requested a recess to analyze the case. The decision would be announced that same afternoon. During the break, the family waited in the courthouse hallway. Jake Peter was calm, playing with a toy car he had brought. How are you feeling, son? Asked Jennifer. Fine, Mommy. The judge is nice. He's going to let me stay with you. At 3 in the afternoon, everyone returned to the courtroom. Judge Frederick Allen read his decision. After analyzing all the testimonies and evidence presented, it is clear that the child Jake Peter Reynolds is being raised in a healthy, loving and stable environment. The petitioner, Claude Reynolds, has not demonstrated adequate conditions to assume custody of a child, nor emotional bonds with the minor. Furthermore, it became evident that his interest is not the child's well-being but financial. Therefore, I deny the custody request and maintain Jake Peter Reynolds under the care of Michael Reynolds and Jennifer Reynolds. Additionally, as the adoption process is already underway, I authorize its immediate completion. The room erupted in celebration. Michael, Jennifer, and Robert cried with joy. Jake Peter ran to hug his father. Daddy Michael, now I'll be your real son on paper too. Yes, my love. Now you'll be my son in every way. Claude left the courthouse visibly irritated, but could do nothing more. The judicial decision was final. 2 weeks later, the adoption was finalized. Jake Peter Reynolds became legally the son of Michael Reynolds, keeping the surname he already used. To celebrate, the family organized a garden party. They invited all the friends who had supported them during the process. Jake Peter was radiant, running around the garden with his school friends. Michael watched the scene with a heart full of gratitude. "What are you thinking about?" asked Jennifer, approaching her husband. "About how unpredictable life is. 2 years ago I thought I had a perfect family. I discovered nothing was as I thought, but in the end I discovered that the family we built is much stronger than I imagined. And now? Now we can move forward without fear. Jake Peter is officially our son. Robert is part of our family. We have a resolved past and a future ahead. Robert approached carrying a garden-shaped cake. Family, attention, Jake Peter asked to make a speech. The boy, now almost 7 years old, climbed onto a chair so everyone could see him. I want to thank everyone who helped me. Daddy Michael, Mommy Jennifer, and Uncle Robert are the best family in the world. Daddy Peter is taking care of us from heaven along with Grandma Louise, and you are our true friends. Thank you for letting me stay in my home with my family. Everyone applauded with emotion. It was the happy ending the family deserved after so much struggle. In the following months, life went back to its normal course. Jake Peter continued doing well in school. Jennifer thrived in the flower shop. Michael Reynolds balanced work and family better, and Robert became an official member of the family. The garden, once watched by cameras of distrust, became the heart of the home. It was there that the family gathered on Sunday afternoons, where Jake Peter learned about plants and about life, where stories of the past blended with dreams of the future. 1 year after all the turmoil, Michael was organizing the office files when he found the first videos from the security cameras. Videos that had revealed the conversation between Jake Peter and Robert that changed everything. He watched that first scene again that had shocked him so much. Jake Peter saying he missed his real father, Robert comforting the boy, the innocence of a child revealing secrets kept for years. Now, seeing the scene with different eyes, Michael understood that moment hadn't been the start of a problem, but rather the beginning of the solution. It was there that the journey began that transformed a family built on lies into one based on truth and love. He deleted all the videos. He didn't need them anymore. The family he had now didn't need to be watched. It was a family built on trust, dialogue, and unconditional love. That night during dinner, Jake Peter asked a question that summed up the family's entire journey. "Daddy Michael, do you still think you were lucky to find me?" "Why are you asking that, son?" "Because I don't think it was luck. I think it was meant to be that you would be my father. You, Mommy, and Uncle Robert were meant to be my family." Michael smiled with teary eyes. "You know what, Jake Peter? I think you're right. Some things in life really are destiny." "And did Daddy Peter want it this way too?" "I'm sure he did, son. I'm sure he's very happy seeing the beautiful family we've built." Robert, who was helping serve dinner, stopped behind Jake Peter's chair and put his hand on the boy's shoulder. "Your Daddy Peter always said that family isn't just about sharing the same blood. Family is those who love, care, protect, and stand together in good times and bad. Then our family is perfect," concluded Jake Peter, with the simple wisdom of a child who knows true love. Jennifer took Michael's hand across the table. Robert remained by Jake Peter's side. The four formed a perfect circle of love, protection, and unity. The garden outside was in bloom. The plants that Peter dreamed of cultivating with his son grew under Robert's care and Jake Peter's small hands. The dream of a father who left too soon had been fulfilled through the hands of those who stayed. The security cameras had been removed months ago. They were no longer necessary. The family had learned that true security doesn't come from surveillance, but from trust. It doesn't come from control, but from love. And so in a house where distrust once reigned, now dialogue, truth, and unconditional love flourished. A family that formed through the most unlikely paths, but that grew stronger through honesty, forgiveness, and acceptance. Jake Peter grew up knowing his origins, honoring the memory of his biological father, but secure in the love of the father who raised him. Robert found in the family the place he had always sought. Jennifer made peace with the past, and Michael discovered that being a father goes far beyond blood ties. The garden continued to bloom season after season as a symbol of a family that also knew how to flourish after the storm. And on Sunday afternoons, when everyone gathered among the flowers, it was possible to feel the presence of Peter and Mrs. Louise, blessing that family that love built. End of the story. Now tell us, what did you think of this family's story of overcoming adversity? Do you believe Michael made the right decisions? Share your opinion in the comments. We love reading your honest thoughts. And if this story moved you, don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other touching narratives like this one.